NATO's nuclear weapons threat a sign of desperation? Hello everyone, tuning into AmChron. Lately, NATO seems to be making some strategic calculations as it discusses enhancing its nuclear deterrent capabilities in response to actions from its top adversaries, Russia and China. However, analysts believe these are merely the final efforts of the military alliance against Russia and China, as NATO is on the brink of disintegration. Before diving into NATO's potential collapse, let's examine how the alliance is flaunting its nuclear weapons. In an interview with The Telegraph last month, NATO Secretary General James Stenberg revealed that the alliance is discussing the deployment of additional nuclear weapons, taking them out of storage and putting them on high alert to deter the growing threats from Russia and China. Stenberg emphasized that NATO needs to showcase its nuclear arsenal to send a direct message to its adversaries, reiterating that NATO is a nuclear alliance. However, according to Asia Times, Stenberg or any new NATO leader cannot significantly impact the alliance's nuclear deterrent capabilities without deep coordination with the United States, which owns thousands of such weapons. NATO's nuclear deterrent capability relies on nuclear sharing agreements, largely dependent on U.S. nuclear weapons deployed in Europe and the capabilities and infrastructure provided by its allies. Several NATO countries contribute nuclear-capable aircraft ready to take on roles at various levels. The U.S. maintains absolute control and oversight over the nuclear weapons it has deployed in Europe. Apart from the U.S., two other NATO members, the U.K. and France, also have nuclear weapons, but their quantities are quite small compared to the U.S. In the U.S., former President Donald Trump discussed withdrawing the U.S. from NATO or significantly reducing its commitments to the alliance if he wins the 2024 election. Specifically, Trump has expressed openness to a complete U.S. withdrawal from NATO, believing that the U.S. should only remain in the alliance if European members increase defense spending and abolish Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, which states that an attack on one member is an attack on all. Article 5 is what has kept NATO together and made it the world's leading alliance. Without collective defense, NATO would just be a group of countries buying and selling weapons, harmless in the eyes of Russia and China. Not only does the U.S. want to leave NATO, but European media reports indicate that some NATO member states fear that France might also make a soft exit from the military alliance. According to Euro, based in Belgium, there is growing concern among diplomats about France's potential soft withdrawal, which means leaving the alliance's military command and gradually pulling out of key alliance activities, potentially paving the way for a full exit. Thus, among the three NATO countries with nuclear weapons, the US, the UK, and France, two, the US and France, have intentions to leave the alliance. This indicates that NATO has fractured and weakened beyond repair. Currently, even though the disbandment of the world's largest military alliance hasn't happened yet, it is still trying to flex its muscles to threaten Russia and China. NATO has always viewed Russia and China as threats. In his interview with The Telegraph, Stenberg mentioned that NATO members have begun consultations about the necessity of placing nuclear weapons on alert. He particularly expressed concern about China, which is heavily investing in advanced weapons and is expected to increase its nuclear warheads to 1,000 by 2030. This means that in the near future, NATO could face two significant nuclear-armed adversaries, China and Russia. The situation is even scarier if these two powers collaborate while NATO is divided and weakened. On the diplomatic front, Russia criticized Stenberg's idea of putting NATO's nuclear weapons on high alert, emphasizing that this move would escalate tensions. Meanwhile, Beijing accused NATO of nuclear blackmail. Behind the diplomatic concerns, perhaps both Russia and China are secretly laughing at NATO. They remember NATO's golden age when the Soviet Union collapsed and the US-led alliance dominated, expanding relentlessly despite warnings from Russia and China. Now the tables have turned. As NATO weakens and fractures, it is trying to use its last spikes for self-defense, but these seem ineffective against the strong cooperation between Russia and China. According to Asia Times, NATO's actions reflect its concern about Russia and China's increasing nuclear capabilities and the scenario of Moscow and Beijing growing closer. Additionally, North Korea, a nuclear-armed state in East Asia, is working more closely with Russia and China, adding to NATO's worries. A week before Stenberg's statement, the White House warned of the need to respond to the potential increase in nuclear warheads by China, Russia, and North Korea. Pran Vadi, a top U.S. National Security Council official on arms control, said on June 7th that Washington might need to deploy more strategic nuclear weapons in the coming years to counter growing threats from Russia, China, and other adversaries. He noted that China and North Korea are rapidly expanding and diversifying their nuclear arsenals, showing little or no interest in arms control. He accused these three countries and Iran of increasingly cooperating in ways that threaten peace and stability, endangering the U.S., its allies, and partners, and exacerbating regional tensions. Regarding Russia, Moscow officials announced in June that they were updating the country's nuclear doctrine. President Vladimir Putin said Moscow's nuclear doctrine is flexible and can be adjusted if necessary. According to the current doctrine, Russia can use nuclear weapons in response to a nuclear attack or in the event of a conventional attack that threatens Russia's survival. Russia's deputy foreign minister also acknowledged the increasingly complex international situation, stressing that Russia could change its nuclear doctrine if U.S. and allied actions force Moscow to do so. The West's green light for Ukraine to use donated weapons to attack Russia raises concerns that the West is about to cross a red line Moscow has set. Moscow views Ukraine's use of Western weapons to attack Russian territory as a red line that will force them to respond with all possible means, including nuclear weapons. Additionally, Russia's deployment of nuclear weapons in Belarus can be seen as a tit-for-tat move against the U.S. storing atomic bombs in its European allies' territories, which Moscow considers a security risk as NATO has continuously expanded in recent years, moving closer to Russia's borders.